Breaking news! A supersonic blue flash just crashed into our peaceful riverbed, forcefully logging out the innocent Clambon before completely fleeing the server. Aha! Welcome everyone to Kokugo Taiwa. I am your lovely host, and today we are diving into Miyazawa Kenji's classic, Yamanashi. To celebrate, check out this gorgeous masterpiece I drew. See these thick, aggressive red crayon strokes energetically filling the background? That is my pure artistic passion, representing the warm, unbreakable bond of the crab family.
Fugo, MCshi. This is an absolutely phenomenal piece of hidden canon. You call it a warm family bond, but those unhinged crimson swirls perfectly foreshadow the sudden, inescapable force to log out awaiting them at the bottom of the food chain. The deep lore theorists are going to completely lose their minds over this dark imagery.
Wait, what in the world? Are you seriously looking at my wholesome art and seeing a psychopath's mindscape? That is absolutely ridiculous. Stop projecting your toxic gamer trauma onto my beautiful drawings and let's just start the show.
I was just praising your subconscious grasp of the ecosystem's harsh meta. Please do not issue a server ban on me.
All right, everyone, let us dive right into the main investigation corner. Today, we are analyzing a very bizarre family of crabs living at the bottom of a river. The story opens in May, where we have these two little crab brothers blowing bubbles and a silver fish constantly swimming back and forth above them like it owns the place. The descriptions of the water and the light are gorgeous, but the fish is honestly just acting super erratic.
From a purely logical standpoint, that fish is displaying a spectacular failure in resource management. Pacing up and down aimlessly in a flowing river is just burning premium fuel for absolutely zero return. It is the exact equivalent of leaving your refrigerator door wide open just to stare at the shelves because you are bored. The world building here is fascinating, but that fish has absolutely terrible time management skills.
Wait, what in the world? That makes zero sense. He is just swimming around in nature. But before they can even process that, a blue kingfisher dives down like a bullet, forcefully snatches the fish, and completely vanishes from the screen. And the dad crab just rolls up and says, "Oh, do not worry, kids, he does not eat crabs." I mean, talk about a massive lack of empathy.
The fan theories will go wild for this. In the competitive arcade scene, that kingfisher is essentially a toxic player abusing a rigged claw machine. The blue claw completely bypassed the descent limit, ignored the required grip strength, and forcefully snagged the moving target. The fish got completely wiped from the server in an unblockable instant. It is a massive skill issue for the fish, honestly. It should have equipped better evasion gear.
You are completely ruining the majestic literary vibe with your gamer talk. But okay, let us move to the emotional turning point in December. The crab kids are playing in the moonlight when suddenly a giant black Yamanashi fruit drops into the water with a massive splash. The poor kids are absolutely terrified, thinking the blue bird is back to initiate a second round of server wipes.
Yes, the classic trauma response from a previous unexpected logout. But this is not a hazard, my friend. It is a guaranteed SSR item drop straight from the developers. However, the fruit gets caught on a branch underwater. In the arcade world, we call this the dreaded bar stuck glitch. The prize is dangling right there in front of your face, but you cannot claim it without insane technical skills and a lot of credits.
Exactly. So the crab family follows the incredibly sweet scent of the fruit down the riverbed. But instead of figuring out how to get it down, the dad crab just stops. He tells his kids to wait 2 whole days. He claims it will sink to the bottom on its own and turn into delicious alcohol, so they should just go home and sleep it off.
For a moment, even the noise stopped. It was just the cold, lonely reality of waiting in the silent dark.
But wait, hold on. That dad crab is literally just doing a natural drop hyena weight. He is refusing to spend a single drop of energy, refusing to move the joystick, and just camping the machine for 2 days, hoping gravity does the work for him. What an absolutely pathetic leech of a player. He is calling degradation a rare upgrade.
I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I completely agree with you. What kind of parent tells their kids to just leave fresh fruit sitting in the dirt until it rots? That is a massive hygiene violation and a terrible waste of groceries. You eat the fresh food before it goes bad, you absolute deadbeat. And worse, he's intentionally fermenting it into alcohol for minors? That is highly illegal and a terrible influence on their developing brains. Stop acting like a poetic nature guide and do your actual parenting job.
Eek, please stop yelling. You are triggering my deepest financial traumas. I once tried to ferment homemade fruit syrup in my college apartment to save money, and I left it at room temperature for months. It caused a massive system error, completely exploded all over the walls, and I lost my entire security deposit. The smell of rotten, sticky fruit is a literal nightmare. My HP hit 0 that day.
Oh my goodness, you actually lived out the crab dad's terrible life choices in real life. But honestly, looking at them and then looking at you, I actually feel really bad for anyone trying to navigate this chaotic world. It's just an endless cycle of rotting fruit, lost deposits, and overwhelming adult responsibilities. Anyway, let us pack up this sticky mess and head over to the back room before I lose my mind completely. Aha! Welcome to the back room, folks. We have completely moved past the terrifying riverbed, and now it is time to dig up the actual behind-the-scenes secrets of this story. So, Neko, what is the real developer commentary behind this beautifully chaotic crab ecosystem?
This is where the background lore gets incredibly intense and highly documented. Historically speaking, Miyazawa Kenji published this in 1923, right after experiencing an immense personal loss in his family. The entire server of his life was heavily influenced by the extreme fragility of existence, which perfectly explains that sudden, unblockable wipeout we saw in May.
Oh, wow! I actually did not know that at all. That makes a whole lot of sense, honestly. He must have been an incredibly stoic and deeply spiritual person to channel that kind of heavy grief into such a beautiful, philosophical nature documentary. It sounds like he lived a very disciplined and pure lifestyle.
A historically common assumption, but it completely shatters when you look at his actual log files. In reality, Kenji was a massive, terminally online whale in the early 20th century audio gacha. He was a total pioneer of otaku culture, constantly blowing his entire paycheck and even his family's funds on outrageously expensive imported record players and massive stacks of classical vinyls.
Wait, are you seriously telling me right now this legendary literary saint was just a reckless shopaholic blowing his rent money on fancy music gear? That is absolutely ridiculous. He sounds exactly like one of those guys who buys a $10,000 gaming setup but sleeps on a bare mattress on the floor.
Exactly. And his bizarre fixations did not stop there. He was also aggressively collecting ukiyo-e prints, including the heavily restricted adult ones, acting just like a modern digital art hoarder. He was completely torn between his idealized spiritual purity and his massive, uncontrollable material desires. His entire hardware was glitching out from the contradiction.
I am honestly screaming in absolute disbelief. How do you go from writing textbooks about the pure beauty of nature to secretly hoarding vintage adult art and massive speakers? But wait, what about his famous super strict ascetic diet that everyone always praises? Surely that part was true, right?
Oh, his diet was an absolute spectacular min-maxing failure. He went on such a bizarrely strict vegetarian run, consuming basically nothing but tomatoes and celery, that his physical stats completely tanked.
He constantly caused massive system errors in his own body due to severe malnutrition. It was the absolute worst return on investment ever.
I cannot believe what I am hearing right now. How on earth do you write majestic poetry about the circle of life when you cannot even balance a basic household budget or eat a normal, balanced meal? Stop importing expensive vinyls from overseas and go buy some actual protein, you absolute financial disaster of a man-child. Your parents must have been completely furious with you every single month.
Eek, please stop throwing those incredibly sharp financial facts at me. Your terrifying lecturing is triggering my own absolute worst traumas. I also went completely bankrupt once after falling into the deep audio equipment trap. I even wrote a horrifyingly cringy blog post titled, "My eardrums are made of vacuum tubes," while actively hiding from my landlord.
What in the world? Of course you did something that incredibly pathetic. And let me guess, you sat there in your dark, unlit apartment dodging calls from the property manager, genuinely believing you were some misunderstood artistic genius? You are literally replicating his exact same toxic, self-destructive behavior down to the letter.
Yeah, I mean, that is a massive critical hit to my pride. But you cannot judge me too harshly, MC Shi. The legendary internet archive still possess the dark records of your old social media profile. You used to go by the terrifying handle Tears of a Fallen Angel and posted extremely edgy, painful poetry every single night. We are both completely corrupted here.
Stop it! Do not you ever bring up my horribly embarrassing middle school internet history on this broadcast. But honestly, looking at his desperate obsession with expensive records and then looking at our own pathetic online histories, aren't we kind of doing the exact same thing online? Maybe we're all just desperately trying to escape reality and find a little comfort in our own weird little bubbles.
For a moment, even the noise stopped. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a crushing loneliness of modernization. Meow.